Yeah, but awesome. It's super exciting that you got into board
I
games.
know. You know what
Um,
else though? Because there's something about card game and board game design where it forces you. I realize this, that so much of what I did was kind of hiding stuff behind systems and programming and stuff, right?
mhm.
When you have a board in a card game, it's such a pure form of design that like your design really has to be elegant.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for a lot of reasons, just for the financial reason, right? If you add cubes that you have to keep track of something, that's an extra 10 cents per cube per product, right? So it's like that can add up, but also like it's very clear when if you have a lot of components in your game, it can start to feel clunky and feel weird, and you don't want to really interact with it because it's just weird. So like the less components you have, the more elegant it is. The rules have to be super clear. The mechanics have to be really reused. The other thing is with board games, like if somebody doesn't know how to play your video game can kind of guide them on the right way to play.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't know how to play your board game, they're playing a different game. Like
Yeah.
they're just gonna make up their own rules and like just play a completely different game that doesn't exist. So you really got to be clear on all that stuff. And it actually blew my mind how much card and board game design really influenced my thinking on like game design, like video game design in general. Crazy. Like there's a lot of stuff.
Like in
A
which
lot of
ways,
stuff
just in
diverse.
terms of simplicity, or in which ways did it influence like your thinking about game design and video games?
So a lot of stuff that I would design before, and I don't have any like official education on game design. So a lot of this has just been learning Google, trying, making 40 some games, like doing all that stuff, right? But a lot of my design was like, doesn't feel good, right? The scientific doesn't feel good. So I would just mess with stuff until it felt good. But like I realized that I was using systems and programming and game feel and game juice as kind of a crutch to cover up things that weren't tightly designed. So like if you make like a shooter game or whatever, and you make it really satisfying to shoot, and you make the explosions solid, and you make the hit and death sounds solid, like that game feel is going to feel so good that you can get away with some inelegant design in other areas, right? Because it's kind of like it's almost like a magic trick, like sleight of hand, right? Like look over here, not over here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like with the limited components that you have in a card game, that's the other thing, is I wanted to make a card game, not a board game. So I kept thinking, well, what if we add a board? No. What if we add these other people? No. Like I want to keep it cards, right? And so it's like it suddenly forced me to put all of the mechanics into these cards. And it was like a really weird challenge. So it's part of constraints, like really solid, like physical constraints, not just like, because that's the other thing is I ignored a lot of constraints. Like I'd start with the constraints, but then I'd be like, oh, but it'd be cool if
Yeah.
we did that other thing, right?
You
And then
can't really do that in a card game, yeah.
yeah. So like hardcore constraints really forced me to like double down and think about like what can we actually do with this 3.5 by 2.5 thing. And it blew my mind of like how if you just give yourself those hardcore constraints and you don't move off of those, how you can really like double down and really make an elegant design. And this is actually, there was like this game came from a chessboard in Army Men. So like it's been through like 10 different prototypes of like how it worked. It's like a grid-based, turn-based strategy game of all that different stuff. But it was just surprising to me that like how elegant a card game design could be. And then also, once you do that, you can translate it to a video game pretty easily.
I'm curious to try that game out, Murder Bunnies. I'm definitely gonna get it when it's available.
Well, thank you. I would love it. I'm really excited for the Kickstarter. That's a whole nother journey that I haven't like taken on, right? It's like, because suddenly, like I never considered Kickstarter before because I've always just been like, I don't really need the money to finish stuff. I just want to make the stuff. But like suddenly when you make physical products, it's like, okay, now you need like, it's going to cost money to make the stuff, right? And the more you make, the cheaper it is. So like if you can order 1,000 copies versus 100 copies, you can get all the units like half price. So Kickstarter is going to be a whole journey, but I know that's what a lot of people are interested in too. So I want to share kind of my YouTube journey of doing a Kickstarter and give people the info and like how it all works. Yeah, because it's kind of scary to be honest. Because suddenly,
I imagine,
the success of this game is no longer kind of in my control, right? It's like I put it out there, and I hope I send all these people to this place, and I hope that they like it enough to make it a thing. If not, I'm just stuck with these cards. I mean, I'm so proud of the game. I'd still be happy, even if the Kickstarter fails. That'd be a whole good video anyway, right? We can make some content out of that.
Definitely.
What I did wrong.
Man, it's I have to admit, it's kind of one thing on my bucket list as well to publish a card game or a board game at some point.
Really?
Yeah. I've searched for YouTube videos how to do it, and it's always this. You come up with an idea, you prototype it, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay.
Dude, I gotta say, the prototyping process on a card game is so much better than a game design. Like, if your game design is good enough, not good enough, but like it adapts well to board games. So like, there's so much prototyping is building the system, right, or adding the art, and then sometimes like the prototype isn't quite right without a little bit of the game juice. So you gotta like add it in there, just see like, okay, does it feel right? So there's a lot of like technical building. In card games, it's like, if you don't like that rule, okay, well, what if we tried this? And then just play it that way. What if we and if you're like, oh, I don't like this, you like take a pen and you scratch it out and you just write something new. And then the card does something completely different. And it's like, oh my God, we are saving so much time prototyping this way. This is amazing. Like, it got me so excited every day. And it's like, Alyssa, my girlfriend, when she'd be at work, and then every day she would come home, and like there'd be something new, or we'd mess with stuff, or we have new card designs, and like it was so much faster. It was so much like, granted, it took the 30 some games or whatever. It took all that design experience. It took learning all that to get to that point. But when I did, it was so much faster, because it just, all of the iterations, all of the rule changes, all the stuff could happen in real time. And granted, this is the first multiplayer game I made, so I realized that's a difference too. Yeah. Like, without having to write AI or any of that, like, you have the other player. But if this does well, I already have other card games in the pipeline that have already been tested, and I think they're ready to go. This could be my future. Even though I really like video game design, like, I'm really obsessed with that like 3-month game dev pipeline, right? And like, card games just seem to like fit really well in that, because they have to be elegant, they have to be small, they're very limited, and it's the other part of it is the art too. I've been learning all the art and really practicing on my art, and that's been a lot of fun. But I highly recommend it, man. Just from a design perspective.
Have you designed the cards yourself? Because what I've seen so far looks pretty epic.
Yeah, this is all my artwork. This is all.
I love the art style. I think that's perfect for a card game.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm really, really happy with these. And it's funny because Murder Bunny started by grabbing the Battle Barn art, because I was just like, let me just take that and use that. But then I just started designing all these Murder Bunnies, and I got really good at the art. And now I'm looking at the Battle Barn and I'm like, oh man, oh man, these look so much better than that. And I'm like, I'm not going through that. Fuck it. So I'm actually in the Battle Barn stuff. I just said, I don't care that the art is worse. That's what's shipping with it. Like that, the old Murder Bunnies, and none of the Murder Bunnies have clothes or anything like that. They're all just naked Murder Bunnies. They're not like dressed up like Giggles here. But that's part of what you have to do as a game developer, right? Is like, you have to make these decisions that are not ideal decisions, but they're ideal for what you're trying to do with the constraints that you have, right? It's a lot of people don't get that, because if you just did this, it would make the game better, but also make the game take longer. It would also affect this other system. It would also like make me less motivated, right? There's so many factors in those decisions that you as the developer see, but other people don't see all those weird constraints.
But sometimes you miss them as well as a developer. And
that's a good point. Sometimes you do. You don't. A Cypherpunk, there's so many decisions I made that, like, the procedural generation algorithm is a perfect example. Like, I'd make this decision. Suddenly, oh my God, we have to change all the mechanics now. Oh, we changed the mechanics. Now we have to change the UI. And it was just like this cascading effect. Design is fun, but I highly recommend, if you're looking for a design challenge, making a card game is a fantastic thing to do, because it really made me think about really elegant design.
Sounds really fun. I guess the scariest part about making card games and board games is the publishing bit.
Yeah.
Because that's just a lot tougher than distributing a digital good.
Yeah. I'm hoping that the
yeah.
Kickstarter does well enough to where I can hire a fulfillment house that will take care of all the distribution and all the stuff. That's what I'm hoping. If it's a smaller scale that we do okay with, like I'm probably gonna have to do a lot of the shipping and stuff myself. And I know from Philophobia, because at least I have some experience with physical products, right? But that was kind of a nightmare. That was all the custom stuff, all the shipping. Some people got theirs broken. Like there was some people got held at customs, and then apparently they had to go and pay a fee on the other end, even after they paid shipping, to release it from customs. Because all this crazy stuff. So ideally, I'm going to have the volume to be able to order everything in bulk in pallets and bring it to fulfillment houses and then pay them like $1 per item or whatever. And then they distribute it and they do all the packaging and distribution.
I see. Yeah.
But you need volume for that, which sucks.
Yeah. Like what kind of volume are we talking here? Like $10,000, 100,000? What's that kind of?
I would say probably at least 1,000 units from what I've seen so far. Like that's like the minimum order of a lot of this stuff. And 1,000 units, these are probably gonna be like $20 each. So it's like probably a $20,000 retail order. So it's not massive. My goal at Kickstarter is probably gonna be around 10 grand just because I want to smash it. And the thing I do like about this is it's really scalable, right? Like if we make 10 grand, then we make X amount of copies, whatever. If we make so much more, then we'll make more copies. We'll do it differently. But there's other sites there's a site called Game Crafter and a couple other sites that are actually print on demand. So like I ordered this deck from a print on demand place where you upload your stuff and they print it as somebody orders it. But it's a lot more. So this was like $8 or $9, which is, if that's up there. I think we had priority shipping and stuff too. So it ended up being like 14 or something like that. That's a lot to pay for a deck, but if you're selling it for 20 and you can get it printed for 14 and they can print it on demand, that's a scalable option.
Yeah, that seems all right.
Yeah, but ideally you'd want to order in volume because then you can get the $14 thing for like 4, right? And then you can have it all printed and ready to go. You can also get higher quality the more higher volume you go to because you have access to different options and stuff like that. So it's a whole different skill set. But that's why I'm going to Kickstarter because the game is done. The game doesn't need any more work. Like it's been done. It's been tested. We've tested it on stream. We've tested it with other people. The artwork's done. It's like solid. We just need that printing money, that like distribution money. So, and it's also kind of a vote of confidence too. Like, right? Like, did the thing I create, do people want it? It's good to kind of see that, ahead of time. I don't want to put all this money into it and print it and then nobody wants it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because people obviously can't play it before deciding if they want to spend any money on the Kickstarter. Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting interaction as well, right? How do you advertise and promote a card game that feels so much different than promoting a digital game? Like, how do you make a trailer for a card game? That's such a different skill set. Like,
especially in a virus where nobody wants to come over to your house and play with you. It's been a challenge. Just we're still figuring that out. But I think it's a different challenge. But given the constraints of that 3 to 6 month project. This is a good contestant, right? So it's an avenue that I think I have to explore if like that's because that's all I've been focused on the last 2 years, and I've failed multiple times now trying this experiment. So it's like I'm trying to find something that matches my attention span. But we'll see. The Kickstarter is supposed to go live as of now. It's going to be next month, and I'm going to be pushing it hard on YouTube this whole month, getting people excited, email list and Twitch and stuff. And I have no idea if I can pull it off. I'm confident. I think I can, especially with my community. Yeah. But like, it's kind of terrifying because it's like when you launch a game, the game's out there and it's going to sell whatever it sells, right?
Yeah.
But Kickstarter, it's like, does the game get made? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and especially because like, I can't afford to like do all the crazy printing on my own either, right? And that's a really big risk for me to take. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Can you already tease what the game is about roughly, or do you want to save that for a later video?
So I've played it on stream before. Like I've because there's a game called Tabletop Simulator. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I know.
But you can actually load your own stuff into Tabletop Simulator. So we've played the game with Tabletop Simulator online on stream and stuff. So kind of show people how it works. But basically, it's a turn-based, grid-based strategy game. So it's a 4x3 grid, and the each card has its own ability. Right here, and then they have attack and defense, and then their cost.
Okay.
And the game, so it's really cool because during your turn you have 3 action points, and you can choose whether to grab a bunny from the like. There's like so you put 3 bunnies out, like list them out face up, and then during your turn, you can grab one, you can spawn one, you can move one on the grid, or you can attack another bunny. And so it ends up being this really interesting strategic game where at any point, both players have all of the knowledge of all the bunnies that you have, but it just becomes on like, how do you use your bunnies and how do you move them and how do you strategize and all that. And there's a 40 card deck, and there's one of every bunny. So there's only one bunny in the deck. And each bunny does a unique thing.
Oh, that's crazy nice.
Yeah, so it's like when that one bunny comes up that does that one thing, you want to grab it and you want to do different stuff with it, or you want to save it for like when other stuff happens. So there's like a lot of really interesting interactions that come from that design of like, it's a grid-based game, it's a turn-based game, but at the same time, like there's one of every unit. And I've had a lot of fun with that because a lot of the problems I've had with card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic and stuff like that, you want to introduce a friend to it, they got to have their own deck, right? So it's like you either got to buy them a starter deck and face your good deck, or you both got to buy starter decks and just not have the super fun experience. But like having one deck that 2 people can play with was really cool for me. That was like a really interesting constraint that I thought was really cool because it's got that like Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic type of experience of like a competitive card game, but it does it in a deck and it does it with 40 unique cards, which is not how Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Magic decks are built. You have a good card, you want to have like multiples of that card, right? So and it's only unit cards too, so there's no like extra spells or stuff you play on top. But that's what I mean by elegant design is I was like, we don't need all that other stuff. We don't need trap cards and magic cards and all this other stuff. We just need the units because the units have abilities on their own. And units also have triggers as well, like you see on spawn. So this guy's unit, this ability triggers when he gets spawned and so on and so forth. So it's been fun to design. It's actually it's similar to Battle Barn in a way.
Yeah, that was my first thought when you pitched it. It kind of sounds like Battle Barn, the card game.
It's a more elegant form of Battle Barn, and actually, I think Battle Barn, ironically, can learn a lot from it, right? Because like I went through the whole design process of Battle Barn, and then I kind of developed this card game, and I think it really piggybacked off a lot of the knowledge of Battle Barn, but at the same time, it brought this like pure elegance to it because Battle Barn, it's got status effects, it's got movement, it's got, it's got a lot of moving pieces. And that's what I was saying about like covering up problems with design and systems sometimes, is I feel like I did a little bit of that with Battle Barn. I covered up design problems with technology and card game didn't let me do that. So it made it really, really cool and elegant. And honestly, out of all the games I made, this one's the most excited. This one is the most one that I'm excited about. Like,
awesome.
For sure.
But that sounds like such a fascinating case study where you first made the game as a video game and then you kind of had to simplify it to get it down to a card game. That is really
and ironically, now I want to make a video game version of the card game.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I thought as well.
I'm like, this is so elegant and perfect, and it translates beautifully to that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
super cool project.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll see what other people think when the Kickstarter launches. But I'm excited for it. And if you ever make a card game or you get a Kickstarter or something, just let me know. I'll push it around.